Meanwhile, one of Canada's top spy agencies, known as the Communications Security Establishment Canada, is facing a lawsuit for violating privacy rights of citizens. The lawsuit was filed by BC Civil Liberties Association and the Open Media organization, who argue that the broad and unchecked surveillance of Canadians directly violates the country's constitution. Steve Anderson is the executive director at Open Media, and he filled me on how this lawsuit came about.
Yeah, well, it's been revealed that the Communications Establishment Canada has the power to monitor any Canadian at any time without a warrant. And not only that, we're being asked to foot the bill for this expensive online spying. And that's why, thankfully, the BC Civil Liberties Association has filed this lawsuit arguing that this activity is unconstitutional. And at Open Media, we're really happy to support them. And, you know, similar to the U.S., here in Canada, citizens are very upset. There's a pledge on our website at Openmedia.ca, and thousands of people just since yesterday have signed up to pledge their support for the BC Civil Liberties Association. You know, I'm hopeful that the government will listen, but so far they haven't said much on this, and there's very little accountability or transparency with this issue.
So do you have any idea if they're collecting the content of the phone calls, they're collecting metadata, are they collecting emails, anything like that?
Yeah, well, they're definitely collecting metadata, so that could pinpoint, you know, where someone is, you know, who people are meeting with, that sort of thing. And if you're communicating with someone outside of Canada, which is pretty much most Canadians, then that information could be collected, and we could be talking about listening into phone calls, reading emails, that sort of thing. But even what's worse is that we don't know what information is being shared between the NSA and CSEC. So, for example, the NSA definitely has the ability to sweep up our information, and then Canadian officials can then get access to that. And you know, that sort of thing is really why Canadians want to know how many Canadians, law-abiding Canadians, are being swept up with this activity, and what information of ours is being stored and collected in these giant databases.
Absolutely. I'm sure a lot of people would want to know the answers to those questions. So let's talk about this lawsuit. What are they suing for, and what are we hoping to achieve here?
Yeah, well, the BCLA is arguing that storing Canadians, law-abiding, collecting and storing and monitoring Canadians is unconstitutional under our charter, and the hope is that we'll have some parliamentary oversight, because right now even our own parliament doesn't know what's going on. And you know, if you look in the U.S., there's some moves, some measures being put forward where there would be some sort of oversight, but here in Canada there's virtually no oversight. And you know, the government's own commissioner who's supposed to be looking into this has said that he does not know how many Canadians, you know, what information is being stored. So the hope is that there'll be some sort of legal measures adopted by the government in response to the kind of revelation that what is happening is unconstitutional. So hopefully there's more oversight.
And how was it uncovered? I know here in the U.S., obviously, we had the Edward Snowden leaks. How was this mass surveillance program uncovered? More or less, it was uncovered by the Snowden releases as well. There's been, for example, it's been in the news recently because it was revealed that CSEC is really becoming out of control and is actually engaging in industrial espionage with our allies in Brazil. And so those sorts of revelations and others have come out, and I think that's why the BCLA has gotten involved and engaged. I mean, if you look at the U.S., there's a rally this Saturday that we're actually involved there in Washington, D.C. with the Stop Watching Us coalition, and people are really upset with the revelations that have come up from Snowden. And I think it's very similar up here in Canada, where the more Canadians learn about this, the more they learn about their privacy being invaded, the more they learn about how CSEC is kind of secretive, expensive, and out of control, the more people are demanding oversight and accountability. And we have a little bit less than a minute left, but I have to ask you, what can the American public take away from this lesson, from this lawsuit in particular, about how Canadians are reacting and handling it? Yeah, well, I think that people in the U.S. can take away that Canadians are basically with them and being very upset about the spying that's going on. I'm really happy that people in the U.S. are calling for the NSA to be reined in because we're swept up in that surveillance too. And I think people up here as well are trying to do our part to make sure that our spy agency is reined in and there's more accountability, because really Americans could be swept up, their data could be left out, available to cyber criminals, leaked to others. And so hopefully if people on both sides of the border continue to speak out on these issues, we'll rein in the spying on both sides.
Steve Anderson, Executive Director at Open Media, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.